right, good morning, Brutal Planet listeners. This is Joey here. Inglorious, the British rock band, has been releasing great music since 2014, and their new album, We Will Ride, releases, I should say released today, February 12th. And I have the privilege of interviewing the lead vocalist of Inglorious and the mastermind behind the whole project, Nathan James. Nathan, welcome. And I'm excited to visit with you here this morning.
Thank you very much, man.
Well, I guess
Yeah,
it's afternoon where you are, isn't it?
it's afternoon and I haven't stopped all day. The album came out obviously at midnight here last night, and
Yeah,
I must have received probably tens of thousands of tweets, like just people loving it. So
yeah,
yeah, my mind is kind of all over the place right now.
yeah. I was going to ask you, what's the weather like in London right now? It's pretty cold, isn't it?
It's freezing. I think it's -2 where I am. I'm in Devon, but it's sunny. It's beautiful. Look,
Okay. Oh, sure.
it's beautifully bright, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what I don't follow England's weather very much, but I thought I heard it was pretty cold over there, and it's very cold here too. It's minus 24 Celsius. I live in
Oh wow,
Minnesota, so
that's
yeah.
very cold.
But so this last year's been crazy. COVID, lockdowns, quarantines, all this stuff. And we're going to talk about you wrote and recorded the album in this last year, but what else have you done to pass the time during all this craziness?
I live on a farm pretty much. So I have lots and lots of pets.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't eat them. I'm too much of a softie to
Oh,
to eat them, but I love them dearly. I've got 5 alpacas. I've got pigs. I've got goats, sheep,
oh wow.
chickens, peacocks. I've got a puppy. I've got a royal python. So I've been spending a lot of my time with my animals and with my family, who my family own this amazing place, and I live in a cottage here, which is a really nice place to write and create because I'm in the middle of nature. There's nothing around here,
Yeah.
and it's very private and secluded. So I'm very, very lucky to have that. That's what's been keeping me sane, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to ask you, where do you draw inspiration from when writing music or lyrics? And it sounds like being on the farm, kind of secluded from the craziness is one thing.
Yeah, I feel like I have the perfect balance in life in that I get to kind of be a singer and I get to travel the world usually, uh, sing in front of thousands of people in whatever project I'm doing, and then I get to come back here and be like a pretend wannabe farmer, you know?
Right.
So it's a really good balance. Like this morning, for instance, the album came out obviously, and the first thing I have to do every morning before I get on my phone and check my emails or see what everyone's saying about the album, I have to go and feed these animals, you know. So I was out there at night, 8 a.m. this morning,
Right.
covered, covered in chicken poop, like feeding feeding animals, which I think is a really good foundation. Yeah, and I don't write my songs about like chickens,
No,
obviously,
no.
but but I do find the whole place to be beautiful. We're very near the coast here,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's a beautiful place to be.
Yeah. I worked on farms in Wisconsin for over 10 years, and I know what it's like to be covered in manure and stuff. It's
It's
not
great.
always the most glorious thing.
It's not very glorious or glamorous, but there is some joy in it. I don't know why. Maybe
Yeah.
it's my other life is so crazy, but when you feel like you've done a hard day's work, or when I don't know, when you've fed all the animals and you've cleaned them all out, and you look back and you look how happy they are, it's a very nice
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah. I just remember those mornings that like it's 5 in the morning, it's minus 20 out, and I'm standing behind a cow, and I'm like, why am I doing this job?
That's a tough gig. That's a tough.
Yeah. So, for listeners who don't know, can you tell us how Inglorious formed, and then maybe even just a little bit of the reforming here this last couple years?
Yeah, the band formed after I was on reality TV about 10 years, 9, 10 years ago, and after my appearance on TV, the Trans Siberian Orchestra found me, discovered me, flew me out to America, and I did a tour with the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. I did three actually, three US arena tours. And after the first tour, I remember thinking, this is great, but I wish I was singing like my own songs. Like, how
Hmm.
amazing would that feeling be, singing your own songs in front of all these people? Uh, and I got scouted by a guy called Derek Shulman, who is actually the guy that he signed John Bon Jovi, he signed Dream Theater, he signed Nickelback, he signed huge bands, and he said, "What I think you should do is I think you should front a band. Like all of your heroes front bands." He said, "Meatloaf isn't your hero, like David Coverdale is," and he was in a kick-ass band. So I set about finding the band. I put out an advert all over the world. I was willing to literally take submissions from everywhere, and I invited the guys to audition. They auditioned, and I picked the band lineup that day. They came to the audition in Manchester, England, and we started writing this album, which I'd never done before. And our first album did really well here in the UK. Uh, and yeah, since then we've just been building on that. We've had a couple of lineup changes. Um, the biggest one being that three guys left the band in a day 2 years ago, over 2 years ago. They wanted to pursue their own projects, which is you can't make anyone change their mind about that. And it's a really hard thing. That was a really hard thing for me to do at the time because I was on tour with a show called The War of the Worlds. I don't know if you know this album. It's a huge album here. It's the 40th biggest selling album of all time.
Oh,
Uh,
well,
and it's kind of like TSO. It's like a prog rock spectacular. And I was on tour with that whilst trying to set a new band together and whilst trying to push our new album's release. So
yeah,
it was just a crazy time in my life. And luckily, I found the three guys that had the same mentality as me. They didn't want to be great musicians, they wanted to be in a great band. And that is what I was always looking for. It's very much a team effort. And if it ever looked like it was just my thing before, it would have been because I was really focused and really driven on making the whole thing great and not just myself. So yeah, I'm super happy with the dudes that I've got in the band right now. They're unbelievable, and what they've brought to this new album is we've never had before. Like energy, uh, just drive, grit, unreal talent, and
yeah,
especially as a guitar player, I don't know if guitar players listen to this, they're gonna freak out. Like there's no 20-year-old guitar player in the world other than my guy who plays like that. It's mind blowing.
yeah. Yeah, I can only play a few chords on guitar, but I was listening. I'm like, holy riffs, like it's amazing.
Thanks, man. Yeah, he wrote
Yeah,
actually the first song, "She Won't Let You Go," Danny and I wrote when he was like 19, and he wrote it for another project he was going to do, a solo project. And then
yeah,
when I got him in the band, I was like, we're having that song. And it was
yeah,
one of the first proper songs he'd ever written. So to think that it was our first single from this record it's really cool.
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna ask you about that in a little bit, but you guys chose the craziest year to write an album and record one. What was the writing like, the recording like during a pandemic when they're telling you to stay away from each other and you guys are coming together to do this massive project?
The writing started pretty much the day that the guys joined the band. So
Okay.
2 years ago, and if we were on tour, the guys would play a riff in sound check, and I'd be like, "That's great, keep that." I'd record it on my phone, make sure we were like having all these ideas, and then when we finally got the dates for the album, we were like, "Okay, let's sit down and write this." And that was probably like towards the end of 2019. Um, so we had a few months of getting together every week before the COVID shitstorm hit the fan. Like
Mhm.
we had a lot of time. I went up to London every weekend. It's like a 4 hour drive from here. I'd drive up, would hang out there for the weekend, have a few beers, write a few songs, and then we kept doing that until we had lots demoed. Then lockdown hit, and we just did it digitally like the rest of the world, right? I'm sure
Yeah,
you've spoken to people who've been doing that, like
yeah,
just doing writing sessions exactly like this, which is so crazy. And yeah, once we got it done, we kept moving the dates for the album. So the date was originally supposed to be in like February, March, and then it got pushed back and back again, which sucked at the time, but it gave us a couple of extra months for me to really work on the lyrics. And I think in hindsight that was crucial to the kind of success of this album because I'm really happy with how it sounded. And the actual recording was hard because the studio we were in, he'd only kind of let two of us in there at a time.
Okay.
And usually we're a band that like to all be there, feed off that energy,
Right.
spur each other on. You know what I mean? If a dude does a take, you're like, you can do it better than that. Come on, do
Right.
it better. Come on, you got this. We'll
Yeah.
all cheer them on. And there was none of that.
Yeah.
But it sounds great. And I think that's a lot to do with with us working with a producer who really, really focused us. And also, because of lockdown, we had no distractions, right? So we couldn't go and get wasted. Like,
Right.
it was the first album we've done where we've been sober. So that's that's quite an achievement. Like,
Yeah.
my drummer is a prolific party boy. So I the fact that we were able to have him focus for 3 weeks was really cool. Although he did all of his drums in like 3 days,
Yeah.
but he was there to be involved, and yeah, it was just it was a cool experience and a really good one. But I don't ever want to make an album like that again. That's for sure.
Yeah. So you guys, this is I was shocked when I actually found this stat out. Um, this is your fourth album and the first one that you hired a producer.
Yeah.
So again, I mean, you mentioned that a little bit, but why the change? And then what was that like? Are you happier with the results versus
God,
when you did it yourself?
absolutely. Um, the reason why we didn't need one is because I had this huge idea, which really did work in the beginning, of tracking live. All my favourite bands, like Zeppelin, Early Whitesnake, Deep Purple, The Who, whoever it could have been back in the day, all tracked live. That was their albums. So I wanted to find musicians that were good enough to track this stuff live. Not the vocals, obviously you can't do take after take after take, but the main rhythm of the songs was all tracked live. So that was our focus. And I thought, why do we need a producer to track us live? Like, it's just one,
Right.
it's like playing a song. Like, it's not, you don't need to be produced. We wrote the songs, we kind of felt it was good. And it did work for us on our first few albums. We're lucky enough to have Kevin Shirley mix the last two. Kevin Shirley, who's mixed and worked with frigging everyone, Iron Maiden, Foreigner, Led Zeppelin, his Black Country Communion. His list is endless. So to have him on those was really cool. And I thought our next logical step was, instead of having a big time guy mix the album, how cool would it be to have an actual producer and make this band sound a lot more modern, and kind of show people that we're not just like a kind of 70s loving classic rock act.
Sure.
We can write big riffs, and big production suits us, and it suits my vocal and it suits the guitar playing and everything else.
Hmm. Now I'm assuming he pushed you in certain ways that you probably wouldn't have pushed yourself.
Yeah, and he made me change stuff, which previously I would have struggled with, right?
Right.
I would have struggled being told by someone. But he's so amazing at what he does, and he's better. I don't mind taking direction of someone if they're better than me at it.
Hmm.
And he's clearly better than me at it, right?
Yeah.
So he's what he does. That's why we paid him loads of money. Like,
Yeah.
so
It's always hard though when someone like critiques you at first, and it's like,
yeah. But it's your song, right? These songs are your babies. Like, these come
right,
out of my
right.
brain and out of my mouth. So,
Yeah.
and it's in my heart a lot of the time. So when someone's saying they don't like somebody, you're like, what do you?
Yeah.
No, no, no.
Who are you? Oh yeah, you're the guy we're paying a lot of money to tell me that. So,
So he was really good. He made me change a few bits. A lot of the time, his focus was on the sound, and when it came to my vocal, he was more about reining me in. So I'd go to sing some stupid high note, which I've been quite like known for over the years. The big yeah, the big screamy notes.
yeah.
And he was like, "Why don't we do this one?" Ah, and I was like, "Okay." Then we did it, and it was amazing. So
Yeah,
he really does have a better understanding of what makes a good commercial rock song and a
yeah.
good album.
Well, and then pushing you like that's probably going to inspire you for the next album to explore different areas you wouldn't have before.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
lowest. It's the lowest I've ever sung on an album. Like, and that's weird because I feel like at my, I'm nearing my peak as a singer almost because I think guys are supposed to hit their peak at like 40 years old. Um, so my voice isn't. My voice is kind of getting better and better as I'm getting older.
sure.
Yet I'm enjoying different aspects of it. It doesn't all have to be me like, yeah, baby, no. I'm more a bit more like, like giving it a lot more lower tones to my voice,
Right.
exploring those Coverdale.
Well, you can give it a little bit more soul, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. But I don't. When you're trying to get heard and when you're trying to show people that you're a good singer, the
yeah.
first thing you do is sing a high note.
Right. You go for the extreme.
That's what you do. You want to
Yeah.
get people's attention. So mentally in my brain for the last, I don't know, how long have I been singing? Goodness, 18 years or something. For that time, all I've wanted to do is sing higher and higher and higher.
Yeah.
Like,
Uh-huh.
so it's pretty cool to have that in the bank if I ever need it. I don't know if I Amy Lee leaves Evanescence and they want to get me in, maybe I don't know. Like
Yeah.
what, I'm trying to think of an example of where I'd use it, but yeah, it's kind of cool now to really experience all of my voice and also to hear it on this album. It's the first time I've ever felt that someone's really nailed what I hear in my head.
Sure.
He really, the sound on my vocal is the best I've ever heard me sound, which is really cool.
Well, I'm still waiting for someone to make my voice sound good. I always sound better in my head than on a recording. So
You need this guy. I'll give you his number.
yeah, yeah, I'll just pay him a ton of money. So, question about your vocals. How do you keep them healthy, especially when you're not touring and maybe using them as much as you normally would? Are you the kind of guy that does the warm ups and the scales, or do you just go like Rob Halford and go at it?
No, no, no. I do warm up. I have a piano here that I do my scales on and stuff. But a lot of the time for me, it's about rest. So I have technique because I've been having singing lessons since I was a child, but I like having like a month where I don't sing at all, which sounds really strange. I don't kind of feel like I need the stamina. I know my voice so well that I
Hmm.
know exactly what I need to do in order to make it sing the certain note. To me, it's more about having those moments of total rest and rejuvenation and letting it either heal or letting it just relax. It's intense singing, the kind of singing that I do. And you've got an Albridge t-shirt on there, Miles as well. Like when you're singing like that, it's like the singing Olympics, right?
Hmm.
You have to chill out, and you have to. It's also warming up's important, but so is warming down. There's nothing worse than coming off after a gig and you're up here because you've been singing really high and your voice is there and you go and talk to loads of people for an hour and you shake their hand and then all of a sudden you're like, oh. So when I come
Yeah.
off stage, the first thing I do is I put a towel over my head, create some silence, and I'll just go, "Prrr, prrr, and I'll bring my voice right down so that when I go out to speak to people, I'm
Sure.
not straining and I'm not shouting over people. Um, yeah, and I sleep like a cat on tour. So like whenever there's 5 minutes, I'm sleeping. Like literally, even at the beginning of sound check, I
Yeah.
will wake up when I hear the kick drum start the sound check, and I will
Yeah.
go on stage, and then I will do my check. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love sleep.
Yeah. Whatever works. Hey, the
Yeah,
vocals sound great, so keep it up.
thanks, buddy.
Yeah. So, let's see. The first single you guys released was "She Won't Let You Go." Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, as I said, me and Danny wrote that one before he was even in the band. Um, I kind of knew that it was a good song, and then I wrote this chorus and it was red haired lady. And I remember thinking, red haired lady. Now I've got to write a song about a red haired lady. Who do I know that's got red hair that's worthy of having a song written about them?
Yeah.
Um, and then I remember this night out we had in London, the whole band with some friends. And my friend got very friendly with this girl with red hair. And he spent the whole night kind of making out with her and stuff. We were like, oh, this is great. Yeah, good for you, man. And then we turned around and she was punching him in the face. And like,
Really?
she was kicking the crap out of him. And I was like, what is going on here? And it went on for the whole night. So they'd like kiss a bit and then she'd go crazy and she'd like kickbox him. And I remember just thinking, this girl is crazy. And I confronted her and said, can you please stop hitting my friend? And she just laughed at me. And I was like, she is possessed. She's crazy. Um, so yeah, I remember, and actually he went home with her and then she kicked him out at like 3 a.m. and he rang us like, hey, can you come and get me? And we were like, nope.
Unbelievable.
You're on your own. We told you not to go with a crazy lady.
Yeah,
And he did. So yeah, so the song's kind of about her.
that's funny. Yeah, my daughter's a redhead, and I got
Fun.
3 sons as well, and she's just the sweetest thing. I mean, she's 8 years old, super sweet, but man, when she gets mad, watch out. She's crazy. Something about them redheads.
Yeah, I love them. I think they're awesome,
Yeah.
awesome people. But yeah, you got to be careful.
So you guys dropped a single today, right? Messiah?
Yeah, Messiah's out today. The video just came out.
And can you tell us about that song?
Yeah, Messiah is. So I saw some people commenting this band were really good until they went Christian, and I was
No.
like, I said we never went Christian. I've never said anything really Christian. I think they just took it a bit literally. I don't know. The
Sure.
lyrics are kind of. I watched a Netflix show called Messiah, and it was about a guy who was claiming to be the second coming,
Oh, okay.
and it was about how he kind of convinced all these people to follow him, and he was actually just some like dude who was like an illusionist, right? And I found that fascinating that people could follow some guy who just claims to be Jesus.
Sure.
And that's kind of what the song is about. It's about people putting faith in things that people that they don't know, and people being led astray, usually for for whatever reason, for
Yeah.
corruption. But yeah, I just found it an interesting kind of thing to write about. I don't know. This time round, during the pandemic, we spent so much time at home, right? So I watched so much fucking Netflix. Like,
I think everybody did, Nathan.
dude, I'm surprised I didn't write a song about Tiger King. Like,
There you go. That's for the next album.
yeah, I was obsessed. So yeah, it just made sense to write about the things that I know about, and that
Yeah.
was that and serial killer documentaries or whatever the
Yeah.
hell else I was watching.
So Messiah, you guys filmed at a pretty special place too, didn't you, for the music video?
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's actually another estate not too far from here. The first half, it's beautiful. And it was in this music room that all the houses in England are so old. So my parents' house is 200 years old, and it's
Wow.
breathtaking. This place is probably about the same. And the guy who owned it like 200 years ago, his wife was like, I love dancing and I love music. I'd love somewhere to do it. So he built her this like incredible room with like a special floor and a vaulted ceiling and a pipe organ and a grand piano and 2 fireplaces. He built it just for her to like dance in and play
Yeah.
music. So it's quite a special place. And then the second half of the video, we filmed at a beach nearby, which is owned by the Ministry of Defence, the British forces. Um, and they use it for training, like desert training for when they go to Afghanistan or something.
Yeah.
So they let us use that for the day, which is pretty cool. And it's also right next to where this always makes me laugh. Do you know Robbie Williams?
Mm-mm.
He's a British artist. He's got a big song called Angels. I'm loving angels instead, and through it all. Huge song, like huge, probably one of the biggest British song of all time,
Okay.
pop song. And he filmed his video there as well. So
Oh, really?
yeah, that song is like it played at every wedding ever.
Okay. Well,
So
I've never been to a British wedding, so
it's a classic. You need to check it
okay.
out.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it's neat when you guys can like, in a sense, join history. Whether that, even if it's not that far back history, just to say, Yeah, we filmed there too, and
Yeah, it's awesome. And I just love that I was able to do it and able that we were. I found it amazing that the one day that we filmed there and we wanted it to look like a desert was the one day it didn't rain and it was
no,
roasting hot.
of
Like
course.
it was like a sign from above that we were supposed to be there on that day.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding. Like we were sweating. We were, and the day before it was cold. It was horrible. And then we got there and we were like, goodness. Between every take, a woman had to come in and stand with an umbrella over me to stop the sun from like
Wow.
melting. It was so hot. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember my wife and I, we went to Seattle several years ago, and they always say how much it rains in Seattle, and we get there and it was sunny for 4 days straight. I'm like, yeah, they're making this up. They just want to keep the tourists away.
I love Seattle. I played there with TSO at the Key Arena.
Okay.
Beautiful. I went down to the market.
Yeah, it's a neat city.
Really cool city. Yeah, I love it.
So I wanted to ask you about one last track. It's not a single yet, even though I think you guys should release it as a single, but He Will Provide.
There's no way anyone's going to take that as a single. It's 5.5 minutes
I
long.
know, but it's so good. Like musically, I could not believe it when I first heard that track. It was just that driving beat and Phil doing that offbeat cymbal thing. I mean, it's such a good song, but
Thanks, man. No, that song came about actually years ago. Not years ago, about 5 years ago. I sung for Uli John Roth from the Scorpions,
okay.
uh, and my guitarist Dan was like, "Dude, I love your work with Uli. I'm going to write a song that's kind of inspired by that '70s Scorpions Middle Eastern
Yeah.
vibe." So he went and wrote that riff, and I remember thinking, "God, this is awesome." I don't know if it's too different, maybe, from the rest of the album. Um, and I said, "Okay, it's never going to be a single. So what we do is we make it like the epic of the album. So it is 5.5 minutes long. There's a minute of guitar solo,
Oh,
and
dude, that bass and then the guitars. I think
so
that's my favorite track on the record.
oh, thanks, man. No, I'll tell them that. And again, it's got like I suppose, a religious undertone. Um, but if you actually read the lyrics, it's a
It
confused.
sounded more like a taunt.
Yeah, it's like whoever's singing the song. Like I don't always sing my opinions. That's what I think
Well, that's
everyone.
that's art, right? Like you can put
Yeah,
yourself in another
exactly.
place and sing about something.
So I'm singing about awful people, and then how the awful people are asking for their leader to rise. But I call him Heavenly Father, even though he's definitely not that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like yeah, I don't know. It's a confused lyric, but it sounds great and it sings great. And
Yeah. Well, that
I'm
opening
looking
riff and
forward to this
stuff.
one live because that middle section, I might just go off stage, have a piss, get a
Put
drink,
a towel over your head.
had a towel over my head, make
Yeah.
some silly noises, and then the guys can make that guitar solo just go on and on and
Oh
on.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
I
would be
really
great
enjoy it.
live.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah. So I know a lot of this is probably up in the air, but touring plans, you guys have any idea?
We've got a tour booked. You've got to be optimistic, right? I'm not going to sit here and say it's not happening. I have
Right,
to just
right.
say, hopefully it will happen and we will be all good. I've got a dude ringing me from Wisconsin. 2 seconds. Hello? Yes. Can you call me back in like 2 minutes' time? Is that okay? Thank you so much. There we go.
Calling from Wisconsin.
Weird, right?
It's gonna sell you some cheese or something. So yeah, I know a lot of touring plans are really up in the air and stuff, but there's a lot of bands that are optimistic for the second half of the year, and I didn't know what you guys were talking about, but
I'd love to, and yeah, we'll see. Our main focus at the minute is getting this album out and making sure people have bought it and download it and enjoy it. And then we've actually started work on another album like 3 days ago.
nice. Keep
So
keep the momentum.
yeah, and it's a bit different for us actually. It's not a typical Inglorious album. It's kind of We're doing an album of songs that we didn't write. So there you go. So that's happening, and we recorded the drums for that the other day. So yeah, that's
Nice.
right.
I like it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's great. One last question for you. Valentine's Day plans. Are you married, girlfriend, just with your animals?
I'll be with my puppy who
Yeah.
is 5 months old, and I will be, I don't know, eating ice cream like
There. Hey, that
every
sounds
other
great.
single loser like me on Valentine's Day.
Well, that's great. Any last comments on the album or the band or anything?
Yeah, just if you like our band or if you like any band, just remember that some of these younger bands like myself haven't been touring, haven't been earning money for over a year right now. So if you're in a position where you can buy a piece of merch or you can buy a CD or a t-shirt or a hat or whatever, you are doing some good. Buy and try and buy directly from the band, and it will help them out. So yeah, look after these musicians because I'm sure they've given us a lot over.
Yeah,
I know, for instance, as a fan of and a consumer of music, I wouldn't have survived this year without those musicians to listen to. So look
right.
after.
Awesome. Well, there you go, Brutal Planet listeners. We Will Ride just released today. It's an incredible album. Check it out. Show your support. Get some merch. Buy the album. Nathan, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure, buddy. Have a good day.
All right, you too.
Cheers, man.